Hello everyone. Our channel updates the latest and fastest manhwa summary videos. We hope you will support us by subscribing to the channel to reach our goal of 1000 subscribers soon. Magic Emperor Chapter 851. The sect leader was absolutely floored when the pond water suddenly turned a creepy, pitch-black color. He wondered if some kind of freak accident was going down today. He figured it was probably just because there wasn't enough moonlight hitting the water. But before he could even wrap his head around it, a surge of black energy erupted from the bottom of the pond and shot toward the shore. That energy spread out like a ghost, sweeping past everyone's feet and swallowing them whole in the blink of an eye. Suddenly, with a faint ringing in their ears, that shadow lunged forward and locked everyone down tight. It trapped them in an isolated space like a barrier, completely cutting off their view of the outside world. Even though the full moon was shining bright right above them, they couldn't see a single thing now. They were surrounded by nothing but an endless, deep void of black that seemed to go on forever no matter how hard they looked. The sect leader was freaking out, his face turning pale as he gasped it, wondering if this was the legendary soul domain. Everyone started buzzing, wondering how the hell someone at the beast taming sect could pull off such a massive soul domain. Total terror set in, sending everyone else into a panic as they scrambled to find an exit. You've got to understand that a soul domain is the top tier of soul power, and anyone caught inside is basically at the mercy of its owner. Their lives were now completely in the hands of whoever created this thing. Still, they never imagined anyone here would be powerful enough to trap everyone in a soul domain all at once. They wondered if this guy was actually planning to wipe out the entire beast taming sect. Someone spoke up, saying that was impossible because if everyone's souls fought back together, the domain would shatter and leave its owner seriously messed up. Even so, the weird nature of this domain was still a total mystery to them. It still didn't make any sense that a domain could be strong enough to perfectly trap every single one of them like this. The sect leader, who is still holding onto a crying girl, definitely wasn't in the mood for messing around anymore. His expression soured as he looked around nervously, shouting out to ask who had the guts to use a soul domain against the beast's taming sect. He admitted that whoever it was had some serious balls. He told them to pull back their soul power immediately if this was just a prank, promising he'd let it slide. But if they were looking for trouble, he threatened to team up with everyone and crush this soul power without mercy. A mocking voice rang out, asking if they actually thought they had what it takes to break his soul. A chilling laugh suddenly echoed from all directions, making everyone's skin crawl. Once they recognized that familiar voice, everyone was stunned and shouted Zhuo Fan in unison. Lion Air and Tuo Believing stood there frozen, unable to believe their own ears. The sect leader shot that down immediately, insisting there was no way Zhuo Fan survived falling into the abyssal quagmire. He scowled, pointing out that Zhuo Fan's soul was supposed to be the heavenly dragon soul, not some kind of soul domain. He barked out a command for whoever was hiding to stop pretending to be a dead man and show their face right now. Everyone else thought the sect leader had a point, agreeing that Zhuo Fan's soul couldn't have just changed out of nowhere like that. But Zhuo Fan just laughed it off and admitted that he did, in fact, have the heavenly dragon soul. He sarcastically thanked the sect leader for kicking him into the abyss, which actually gave him the chance to form a second soul. He announced that the space they were standing in was his second soul, known as the Heaven Transforming Domain. The sect leader was floored, claiming that a cultivator having two souls was totally impossible and something nobody in the Western lands had ever heard of. Zhuo Fan shot back that just because he hadn't heard of it didn't mean it didn't exist. He pointed out that Dan Qingshan had also possessed two souls back in the day. He explained that a chance meeting with the man was exactly how he learned to form a second soul. He mocked the sect leader for being so clueless about the secrets of the top-tier experts in the Western lands. The sect leader was rattled at the mention of Dan Qingshan, stumbling back as his face went through a dozen different emotions. If Zhuo Fan hadn't brought up a real example, there was no way he would believe the two-soul story. But bringing up a legend like Dan Qingshan actually made him start to buy it. He knew that when it came to a powerhouse like Dan Qingshan, the impossible was pretty much expected. He realized that if there was already a precedent, then a freak like Zhuo Fan could definitely pull off something similar. The sect leader's expression turned grim as he gritted his teeth and asked one more time to confirm if it really was Zhuo Fan. Zhuo Fan gave a cocky nod, confirming it was indeed him. The sect leader let out a cold sneer, thinking Zhuo Fan was just asking for a death sentence by coming back to face them. He gave a sly grin, admitting they couldn't touch him before because that heavenly dragon soul was just too damn strong. But he figured Zhuo Fan was getting way too cocky by using a soul domain right now. He mocked him, saying that while a soul domain might be a step up from a beast soul, trying to trap this many people would definitely overload it. He was convinced that if everyone teamed up and attacked at once, the domain would shatter in a heartbeat. He threatened that once the domain broke, Zhuo Fan would be in for a world of hurt. He laughed triumphantly, thinking Zhuo Fan had made a huge mistake by underestimating their combined strength. Right then and there, the sect leader ordered everyone to release their souls at once to smash through the space. Everyone shouted back in agreement. After a loud roar, everyone went all out to release their souls, creating an incredibly powerful surge of energy. The sight of all those souls appearing at once created a massive force that felt like a crashing tsunami. That insane power caused the pressure inside the domain to skyrocket, threatening to blow the whole space apart. Lei and Er's group could barely breathe, totally terrified by the overwhelming pressure. The combined power of the beast-taming sect guys seemed like it could tear through any barrier. The little bit of hope they had just found quickly turned into pure anxiety as they watched the situation get dangerous. The sect leader laughed victoriously and ordered his men to attack and completely demolish Zhuo Fan's domain. The whole crowd charged forward, intent on smashing through the surrounding darkness. This was supposed to be the weak point of any soul domain facing a massive, coordinated attack from the inside. The sect leader was hired, convinced that this time, he was definitely going to take Zhuo Fan down. But his celebration didn't last long before a weird sound echoed through the air. Instantly, every single attacking soul froze in its tracks, as if some invisible force had them completely locked down. The sect leader totally panicked, having no clue why his men had suddenly stopped. His subordinates started screaming for help, feeling all their power being drained away as they became unable to move. The elders trembled, reporting that both their origin energy and divine sense had been completely sealed off. The sect leader was so shocked his pupils literally shrank. Fear started to set in, and his legs wouldn't stop shaking. Once a cultivator loses both their origin energy and divine sense, they were basically powerless. They were no different from ordinary people now, just sitting ducks waiting for the end. He just couldn't wrap his head around what was actually going on. Zhuo Fan spoke up, explaining that his domain was formed from the abyss itself, so it carried all those terrifying traits. He brought up the sect leader's own words about how nobody survives falling into the abyssal quagmire. He told them their current situation was just as deadly as falling into that pit. He made it clear that this domain was actually even more powerful and terrifying than the natural quagmire itself. Hearing that, everyone started shaking with fear, their faces turning ghost white. They just couldn't believe this brutal reality. They realized that if the domain really had the traits of the abyss, death was pretty much a done deal. He knew for a fact that nobody had ever escaped the clutches of that abyssal quagmire. Zhuo Fan addressed the sect leader of the beast-taming sect with a sarcastic tone. He told him that he'd made a huge miscalculation. He mentioned that Dan Qingshan once taught him that a second soul had to be even stronger than the first. Therefore, his heaven-transforming domain was definitely superior to even the heavenly dragon soul. He laughed at how they'd underestimated him, stating that the outcome wouldn't change no matter how careful they were. He announced that they should all get ready to meet their end. He immediately unleashed the demon transformation art. Instantly, thick black energy swirled around the bodies and souls of the beast-taming sect members. No matter how much they struggled, they were totally helpless since all their power was locked down tight. The sect leader started swallowing his pride, begging Zhuo Fan for a chance to live. Both the sect leader and his subordinates were pleading desperately, hoping to be spared. But Zhuo Fan completely ignored their pleas. The darkness swallowed them up, turning them into silent black masses and silencing every single scream. A moment later, the entire domain and everyone inside vanished without leaving a single trace. Crescent Moon Pond returned to its usual peaceful state under the beautiful glow of the full moon. All the experts from the beast-taming sect had been wiped out, becoming nothing more than energy for Zhuo Fan. The area by the pond became so quiet and peaceful, it was like a battle had never even happened. Lei and Er's group also started to pull themselves together after the nightmare they'd just been through. As the moonlight hit them, they felt a massive wave of relief, like they'd just cheated death. Now that they were safe, everything around them seemed more beautiful than ever before. All three of them just stood there in a daze, soaking in the precious peace after everything that had just gone down. Suddenly, a soft splash came from the water, sending ripples outward. A fit young guy stepped out from the crystal clear light. His muscles were well defined and gave off a strange glow, radiating a powerful vibe just like a black dragon. As he got closer, that cold but familiar face finally came into view. Lei and Er choked up, calling out Zhuo Fan's name with tears in her eyes. Seeing that Zhuo Fan was actually alive made her feel incredibly relieved and happy. She didn't even care that her clothes were a mess. She just lunged forward, hugged him tight, and started sobbing with joy. Zhuo Fan kept his cool, even though he could feel Lion pressing right up against him. He looked at her and suggested she let him put some clothes on before they kept talking. Lion froze when she realized she was pressed right up against Zhuo Fan's naked body. When she looked up, she realized with a shock that Zhuo Fan wasn't wearing a single stitch of clothing. Lion shrieked and quickly turned away, her face turning bright red from embarrassment as she scolded him for not having any clothes on. Zhuo Fan pulled some clothes out of his ring and explained that his old outfit had been completely eaten away by the quagmire. He figured it made more sense to get on shore before getting dressed so he didn't ruin his new clothes. He teased her for being so panicked that she'd forgotten such a basic piece of logic. Lian huffed it, but since she couldn't argue with that, she just asked if he was finished dressing yet. Zhuo Fan confirmed that he was all set. Lian turned back to look at him, her face full of resentment. Zhuo Fan was pretty confused by her reaction. He took a look at her, and pointed out that her own clothes were torn, and she probably needed to fix them. Lian shrieked again, quickly turning away to fix her outfit before turning back with a bright red face. Seeing the teasing look in Zhuo Fan's eyes, she got even more flustered, and yelled at him to stop staring.